Waitress breaks down after being fired without reason. Then a millionaire enters the diner and Lucy Jenkins had always believed in small acts of kindness. Each morning she folded her apron with care, pinned her name tag above her heart, and stepped onto the diner floor with a hopeful smile. Little did she know that today would challenge every shred of her faith in the goodness of people. Fired without warning, cruelly and abruptly, she felt her entire world crash around her. But in the midst of her heartbreak, a mysterious millionaire walked into that same diner, exuding a quiet generosity. In an instant, Lucy's life teetered between despair and wild possibility. Setting the stage for an unforgettable, life-altering turn of events, Lucy Jenkins could still hear the dull rattle of the coffee machine and the soft clinking of utensils echoing in her mind as she stood on the curb outside Mayberry's diner. The place had once been her second home, where she worked tirelessly. With a smile, rain or shine, heartbreak, or health refusing to let any personal burdens creep into her service, she remembered wiping down tables after the morning rush, greeting regulars by name, memorizing the favorite orders of the old married couple who sat in booth number 3 and the new mothers who visited with their infants to enjoy a quick meal away from home. The diner was the community's everyday refuge, and for Lucy, it was a sanctuary that gave her a sense of purpose. Now she felt adrift, clutching a cardboard box of personal belongings she had managed to gather under the humiliating gaze of her manager, Gerald Thompson. Gerald had fired her without explanation. Just minutes before, Lucy was reeling in disbelief. Gerald was never a warm figure, but he had always been grudgingly respectful of her hard-working nature. Then this morning, out of nowhere, he announced she was no longer needed. He refused to say more, even as she pleaded for a reason. Once Lucy realized he would reveal nothing, her defenses collapsed. She hadn't dared cry inside the diner, but now tears blurred her vision as she stood on the sidewalk, stunned and devastated. Her phone buzzed in the pocket of her coat. She pulled it out, hands trembling, half hoping it might be an apology call or explanation from Gerald. The caller ID, however, read, unknown. Wiping her tears with the back of her hand, Lucy answered Lucy Jenkins. "This is Dr. Oakley's office. We wanted to confirm your appointment tomorrow morning for your father's checkup, right?" Lucy said, voice quivering. "I'll be there." Her father's illness had been another weight she bore in silence. He had been diagnosed with a heart condition that required both medication and frequent monitoring, and Lucy's meager savings were swiftly depleting under the strain. She'd taken on extra shifts just to ensure they could afford his medicine. But now she had no job at all. She tucked the phone away. In her mind, she rehearsed how she would tell her father, an old-school man, proud and determined not to be a burden to his daughter, that she had been let go, just as panic threatened to swallow her whole. She felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Clarissa Boyd, a fellow waitress, and one of Lucy's closest friends at the diner. "Lucy, dear, I'm so sorry." Clarissa's voice wavered with sympathy. "I just heard what happened. Gerald wouldn't even explain it to the rest of us. He looked so grim, like he'd gotten orders from up above or something." Lucy's tears returned now, unstoppable. "He told me nothing. Clarissa, I have no idea what I did wrong. I showed up on time, always helped customers." "It doesn't make sense." Clarissa offered a small, comforting squeeze of Lucy's arm. "I'll ask around, see if there's anything going on behind the scenes. Meanwhile, are you going to be okay? Do you have rent covered?" Lucy forced a brave nod. But in truth, she had no idea how she would manage. Rent was due next week, and her father's medication costs had skyrocketed again. She had planned to talk to Gerald about picking up yet another shift, not lose her job altogether. Trembling Lucy reached into the box to grab her coat. The late autumn wind whipped around her. She stared back at the building where she had invested 3 years of her life. It felt wrong, humiliating to be cast aside like this. If Gerald refused to give her a reason, maybe the diner's owner, John Mayberry, could shed light on the matter. John was away on a business trip as far as Lucy knew. But if she could just speak to him, maybe there was a chance she could get her job back, or at least find out the truth. That night, Lucy hunched over a tattered notepad, scanning classifieds and online job postings. Waitressing, bartending, housekeeping. With so many looking for work, she wondered if she even had a chance. She typed out her resume, one that centered heavily on her experience at Mayberry's diner, and emailed it out to a dozen places, hoping for even a single bite. By the flickering light of her bedside lamp, she fought to remain hopeful for her father's sake. If he saw her in this fragile state, it would add more stress to his condition, so Lucy swallowed her pain and tried to piece together the fragments of her dignity. Morning came with a pale sun, casting watery rays through the cheap blinds of Lucy's small apartment. She helped her father, Theodore Jenkins, out of bed, supporting his weight as they crossed the living room to the couch. His once strong arms, hardened from decades of carpentry and house building, now trembled with each step. Lucy remembered how he used to toss her into the air as a child, always certain to catch her with perfect timing. "Did you sleep, kiddo?" Theodore asked. Noticing the dark circles under her eyes, Lucy forced a smile. "Sure, ready for the doctor's appointment. Let's get it over with. I'd rather be at the diner." "You working today?" he asked innocently. Lucy's chest seized. She looked down, fiddling with her keys. "I'll explain on the way." "Okay." The conversation went as badly as she expected. Theodore's face fell etched with guilt. He apologized repeatedly, blaming his illness for her predicament. Lucy tried to reassure him, telling him everything would be all right. But the tears pooling at the corners of her eyes betrayed her desperation. After the checkup, the two parted ways. Theodore insisted on walking home so Lucy could clear her head. She felt uneasy letting him go alone, but realized he needed some sense of independence. Trying to distract herself, Lucy headed for a part of town known for its busy restaurants. She decided to print out her resume and hand-deliver it, hoping that her earnestness might impress prospective employers. She visited 6 restaurants that day, some fast food joints and a coffee shop. Each manager seemed sympathetic, but they either had no openings or placed her application on an ever-growing stack. With each politely disappointed smile, Lucy felt her self-worth slipping further. By early afternoon, her legs ached and her spirit was near breaking. She stopped by a small bakery cafe named Patty's Place, which was rumored to be a hidden gem. There, among the small tables lined with doilies and the aroma of fresh pastries, Lucy saw an elderly woman wiping down a display case. She introduced herself and asked if they had any openings. The elderly woman, presumably Patty, listened to Lucy's plea with a gentle sympathy. "We're fully staffed, my dear, but let me see your resume anyway." Lucy handed it over her eyes, shining with a desperate hope. "Thank you," Patty said softly. "I can't guarantee anything, but if something opens up, I'll call you first." A wave of gratitude washed over Lucy. Even the faintest possibility comforted her. She nodded, thanked Patty profusely, and turned to leave. That was when the door opened, letting in a gust of cold air, and a tall, impeccably dressed man with salt and pepper hair stepped inside. He paused, scanning the modest cafe, as though it carried an air of nostalgia for him. Lucy would soon discover that this man's name was Marcus Williams, a millionaire investor rumored to have ties with multiple charities and philanthropic endeavors across the state. She had no clue who he was at the time, just that he held himself with poised confidence that turned heads, though he seemed older, mid-50s. Perhaps there was a certain warmth in his eyes that belied the stern cut of his suit. Briefly their eyes met. Lucy felt an unexpected flutter of nerves. There was something kind but intensely observing about his gaze, as though he could perceive her turmoil with a single glance. She managed a polite nod and walked out, wanting only to return home before her anxieties swallowed her whole. That night, Lucy sank onto the living room sofa beside her father, trying to remain optimistic. She flipped through the TV channels, landing on a local news report about philanthropic contributions to the local children's hospital. She recognized a name. In the anchor's broadcast, Marcus Lemonis visited Brenton Children's Hospital earlier today to discuss potential expansions in charity funding. Lucy's father turned up the volume. "Is that the same Marcus who—" Theodore asked, glancing at Lucy. "I'm not sure," Lucy said. "There are a few business people named Marcus. But I did meet a Marcus Williams at a cafe earlier. Couldn't be the same person." They listened quietly, Lucy's mind drifting to the meltdown at the diner. She felt her heart twist again at the memory. She had been an exemplary employee, but now she was jobless and uncertain of her future. Her father switched off the TV, and the living room sank into a hush. "Sweetie, come here." Theodore beckoned. Lucy leaned toward him, and he gently brushed her hair aside. "We'll get through this. I can try for some government assistance. Maybe there's something I can do from home. I won't let you worry about money." "Dad," Lucy insisted. Voice determined, though. Tears threatened. "I'll find something soon." The next morning, Lucy woke up earlier than usual. She had decided to return to Mayberry's diner, not for a confrontation, but to see if she could speak with the owner, John Mayberry, who was rumored to be back from his trip soon. She hoped for a chance to clear her name, or at least glean some reason behind her abrupt dismissal. Anxiety gnawed at her stomach as she approached the familiar glass doors. Inside the bright fluorescent lights illuminated a modest breakfast crowd. She spotted Gerald behind the cash register. He stiffened at the sight of her, his lips curling into a disapproving line. Lucy ignored him, striding purposefully to the back office where John typically handled paperwork. She tapped gently on the door. "Mr. Mayberry?" No response. Then the door opened to reveal Clarissa. The relief Lucy felt at seeing her friend's familiar face was instantaneous. "Lucy, what are you doing here?" "You're not supposed to." Clarissa's concerned tone cut off abruptly as Gerald's voice boomed down the hallway. "She doesn't work here anymore," he snapped. "Lucy, leave before you cause a scene." Lucy turned around, eyes brimming with frustration. "I won't cause a scene. I just want to talk to Mr. Mayberry about why I was fired. If there's some misunderstanding, maybe I can fix it." Gerald's expression revealed a flicker of guilt tore. "Mayberry won't be in until tomorrow. There's nothing to fix. You need to go." Lucy's lower lip trembled, but she set her jaw, refusing to let him see her cry. "I deserve an explanation." "Gerald." He glared at her, and for a moment she thought he might strike her with more harsh words. Instead, he stormed away. Clarissa placed a comforting hand on Lucy's arm and whispered, "Come back tomorrow. Quietly, I'll try to let you know when Mr. Mayberry arrives." Outside, the crisp air stung Lucy's cheeks, but not as harshly as Gerald's cold demeanor. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, to stand up for herself, but she knew it would only worsen her chances at resolution. She decided to head home, regroup, and plan her approach for the next day. However, fate had other plans. As she turned onto the main street, she nearly collided with the very same man she had seen at Patty's place. Marcus Williams. He was stepping out of a sleek black car, apparently scanning the row of small shops and cafes. Lucy muttered an apology and attempted to slip away, but he recognized her. "Wait, I remember you," he said, voice gentle. We briefly crossed paths in Patty's Place. "I think you were looking for a job." Lucy felt embarrassment flood her cheeks. "Yes, I just lost my waitressing job." "Sorry to hear that." He paused, studying her more intently now. "You look like you've had a rough morning." Lucy let out a shaky sigh. "I was fired without explanation. I'm still trying to figure out why. I'm hoping to meet with the owner tomorrow to clear things up." Marcus hesitated, and something in his manner softened. "Is there anything I can do to help?" She was taken aback by the question, uncertain of how to respond. He seemed sincere, but Lucy had no reason to trust a stranger, millionaire or not. "No thanks," she said quietly. "I'll manage, I have to." A faint smile touched his lips. "Well, in that case, if you change your mind..." He reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a simple business card. "You can call or text. Good luck, Ms. Jenkins. Lucy Jenkins." He nodded, handed her the card, and slid back into his car. She watched him drive away, still bewildered. The card read, "Marcus Williams, philanthropist and independent investor." A phone number was neatly printed below his name. Lucy stared at it for a long moment before tucking it into her purse. That afternoon, Lucy tried to make sense of the surreal encounter. Why would a millionaire bother giving her his card? Did he sense her desperation, or was he simply a kind-hearted individual who helped people in distress? Doubt gnawed at her. The entire situation seemed too strange for words. Meanwhile, calls to other prospective jobs turned up empty. Despondent, Lucy tried to keep her spirits up by cooking dinner. She carefully prepared her father's meal, ensuring to avoid anything that might strain his heart condition. As they ate, Theodore noticed Lucy's distant stare. "What's on your mind?" She briefly explained her chance encounter with Marcus Williams and his business card. "It's weird, right?" she asked. "We barely spoke yet." He offered to help. Her father leaned back, thinking some people are simply philanthropic. He mused. "Look at Marcus Lemonis or Bill Gates. They help folks without expecting anything in return. It might be that your new acquaintance has the same philosophy, or maybe he's just being polite." Lucy nodded slowly. Her father's words carried a calm wisdom. Still, she could not escape the sense of being caught in a whirlwind of events she barely understood. The following day, Lucy arrived at Mayberry's diner just after its morning rush, as Clarissa had suggested. She slipped through the back door and found John Mayberry seated in his cramped office. He was a stocky man with kind eyes, someone Lucy had always respected. He glanced up, startled, when Lucy tapped on the open door. "Lucy," he exclaimed, "I heard something about you not working here anymore." "But I've been out of town. What happened?" Her chest eased slightly at the genuine confusion in his voice. She stepped inside and closed the door gently behind her. "Mr. Mayberry?" "I don't know. Gerald told me I was fired and he wouldn't give me a reason. I was hoping you could help." John's brow furrowed. He set aside a stack of invoices. "That's peculiar. Gerald mentioned you left suddenly, but never gave specifics. Said something about you not meeting our standards. But you've always been one of our best waitresses." Lucy felt a flicker of hope. "So, you didn't instruct Gerald to let me go?" He shook his head firmly. "No, that would have come from me, directly. I'm the owner. I have no clue why he would do that." A swirl of emotions rose in Lucy's chest. Relief, anger, confusion. "Could you reverse it? Please, I need this job. My father is sick and I..." I need the income. John pressed his lips together, eyes shimmering with empathy. I'll definitely look into it. Lucy, Gerald has been a decent manager for years, but if he fired you without cause, that's a big problem. Let me handle this. Give me until tomorrow to get to the bottom of it. She nodded, tears of gratitude threatening to fall. Thank you, Mr. Mayberry. Thank you so much. Her spirits soared as she stepped out into the hallway, but they plummeted just as quickly when she nearly collided with Gerald. He stood there, arms folded, face red with anger. I see you went around me, Lucy, he said in a low hiss, keeping his voice down so the customers wouldn't hear. You gave me no choice, Lucy whispered, fighting to keep her voice steady. You never gave me a reason. Mr. Mayberry never authorized my firing, so why did you do it? Gerald glared, his jaw set. I don't have to answer to you. Suddenly, Clarissa rushed up, glancing nervously at Gerald. Table 5 is calling for you, she said, trying to diffuse the tension. Gerald shot them both a venomous look and left Clarissa touched Lucy's elbow lightly. I hope Mr. Mayberry straightens this out. Gerald's been acting strange for weeks. Real paranoid. Lucy took a shaky breath. He must be hiding something. That evening, Lucy returned home feeling a stir of optimism. She had a real chance of being rehired if John confronted Gerald about the questionable firing. Still, her mind wouldn't rest. Gerald's behavior was bizarre. Why had he singled her out? Why no explanation? She had an uneasy feeling that something bigger was in play. As she made tea, her father ambled into the kitchen, a slow shuffle of slippers on worn linoleum. He saw the light in her eyes before she even spoke. You look hopeful, he said, smiling gently. Mr. Mayberry might give me my job back, Lucy answered, beaming. That's wonderful, Lucy. Theodore clasped his hands together. I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself. Lucy set the steaming cup of tea in front of him. Let's not celebrate just yet. Mr. Mayberry said, he needs until tomorrow to figure things out. Her father patted her hand. It'll work out. I know it. Morning arrived with a crisp brilliance in the sky. Lucy got dressed, slipped on her warmest coat, and hurried to the diner. She was prepared to talk to Mr. Mayberry again, but the sight of 2 police cars parked in front of the diner stopped her short. A small crowd of curious onlookers had gathered. Lucy recognized a few of her co-workers, including the cook Manny, who rushed up to her. Lucy, something big is going down, Manny said, eyes wide with shock. Gerald's in trouble, serious trouble. What do you mean? Lucy asked, her heart hammering in her chest. I overheard the cops talking, something about embezzlement, money missing from the diner's accounts, suspicious transactions. They took Gerald out in cuffs not 10 minutes ago. Lucy's jaw went slack. Embezzlement. That would explain his weird behavior. Maybe he'd fired her because he was afraid she'd noticed discrepancies in her paychecks or the tips. Adrenaline surged as Lucy pushed through the onlookers to reach the entrance. A police officer barred her way. Miss, the diner's closed for the day investigation. He said firmly, but I need to speak to the owner, John Mayberry. Is he here? The officer glanced over his shoulder. He's inside, but I'm not letting anyone through at the moment. Manny placed a hand on Lucy's shoulder. Let's wait. Mr. Mayberry will come out eventually. Minutes stretched into an hour. Finally, John Mayberry emerged, exhaustion evident in the slump of his shoulders. He locked eyes with Lucy and Manny, beckoning them over with a weary gesture. It's a mess, he began. I checked the books last night after talking to Lucy. I noticed thousands of dollars missing over the past few months. Someone was stealing from me. This morning, I confronted Gerald. He denied it. but I'd already contacted the authorities. When the cops arrived, they found evidence in his office tying him to the missing funds. Lucy felt both shock and a strange sense of relief. He fired me because he was worried I'd find out, didn't he? John nodded slowly. Looks that way. He was forging petty cash vouchers, pocketing the money. Maybe he thought you were too observant. He must have been afraid you'd notice. I'm so sorry, Lucy. You got caught in the crossfire. Lucy's knees felt weak. So, what happens now? John placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. If you still want your job, it's yours. But it may take a few days to reopen while we sort everything out. She let out a shaky breath, tears pooling in her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Mayberry. I really need this. He nodded. You've always been a dedicated worker. I'm just sorry it took this kind of situation to realize what was happening. Despite the chaos, Lucy's heart felt lighter than it had in days. She called her father and shared the news, hearing the relief in his laughter over the phone. It seemed life was finally throwing her a lifeline after a tumultuous week. Later that afternoon, she visited Patty's place, again, partly to thank them for keeping her resume on file, and partly because she wanted to treat herself to a slice of pie as a small celebration. She walked in, greeted by the warm scents of cinnamon and sugar. Patty beamed at Lucy from behind the counter. "Oh, Lucy dear, how are you holding up?" Lucy smiled in return, the tension in her shoulders melting away. "Better I just got my job back. There was a misunderstanding at my old diner, and now it's sorted. That's lovely news. What can I get you?" "Just a slice of apple pie," Lucy said, happily. "I'm in the mood to celebrate." Patty winked. "Coming right up." Lucy found a small corner table by the window and settled in, letting the soft murmur of the cafe ease her nerves. That's when she noticed Marcus Williams again. He stood in line to order, speaking politely with another customer, a young mother with a fussy toddler. Marcus crouched down to entertain the child, eliciting giggles. Lucy couldn't help but smile at the scene. There was a genuine kindness about him that shone through even the simplest interactions. After placing his order, Marcus scanned the cafe, eventually spotting Lucy. He offered a friendly nod and approached her table. "Mind if I join you?" "Oh." "Not at all," Lucy said, slightly flustered. He set his coffee down and removed his coat. "How's the job hunt?" Lucy chuckled wryly. "It's resolved, actually. My old boss was stealing from the diner. He fired me out of paranoia. But the owner cleared things up and I got my position back." A smile curved Marcus's lips. "That's quite a twist." "You can say that again," Lucy replied, shaking her head in mild disbelief. Patty arrived with Lucy's pie and Marcus's coffee. She set them down and bustled away, leaving the two to their conversation. Lucy took a bite of pie, savoring the sweet flavor. Marcus studied her thoughtfully. "I can't help but notice you carry a lot of worry with you," he said gently. "Just from the short encounters we've had, you seem weighed down. Is it just the job or something more?" Lucy's fork paused mid-air. She wasn't used to strangers prying into her personal life, but something about Marcus's sincere demeanor calmed her. "My father's ill heart condition. The medication is expensive, and I'm his caretaker, so finances have been tight. Getting fired was devastating." Marcus nodded, sipping his coffee. "I'm sorry to hear that." He paused. "I might be able to help with some medical expenses if you'd let me." Lucy nearly dropped her fork. "What, no? I mean, that's unbelievably generous, but I can't accept charity. You barely know me." He shrugged lightly. "We could structure it as a loan if that makes you more comfortable. You pay me back, slowly. No interest." Her mind spun. It felt surreal. She had read stories of good Samaritans, but never expected to meet one in real life. I don't know what to say. She stammered. Why would you do that? Marcus's eyes flickered with a faraway sadness. Let's just say I've seen how hard life can get. I've been helped before, when I was at a low point. Sometimes you do a favor for a stranger who needs it. Lucy stared at him, a wave of conflicting emotions sweeping over her. Humility warred with a desperate desire to ease her father's burden. Finally, she pressed her lips together. Could I think about it? Of course, Marcus said without hesitation. He reached for a napkin and jotted down a second phone number. That's my personal line. Call any time. For the next week, Lucy resumed her waitressing duties at Mayberry's diner. Mr. Mayberry had reopened quickly, wanting to restore the community's favorite gathering spot. The air felt lighter, without Gerald's oppressive presence, and the staff welcomed Lucy back with open arms. Clarissa was especially overjoyed, hugging Lucy each morning. They swapped stories about how the police discovered that Gerald had been falsifying daily earnings and pocketing the difference. I hope that jerk rots in jail, Clarissa remarked one afternoon in the break room. He always gave me the creeps. Lucy nodded. I just want everything to return to normal. But normalcy remained elusive in Lucy's personal life. Her father's health took a turn for the worse. The doctor recommended additional tests and possibly a minor surgical procedure to insert a stent. The cost, even with insurance, was crushing. Lucy felt panic grip her like a vice. Rent was due. Bills were piling up, and her father's medication alone was nearly $400 a month. The looming possibility of surgery multiplied her financial anxiety. She remembered Marcus's offer and the new phone number resting in her purse. She told herself she should be able to solve her own problems. But maybe this once she could accept help. Late one evening, after her father had gone to bed, Lucy sat alone at the kitchen table, the glow of a single lamp illuminating her tear-streaked face. She dialed the number he picked up on the first ring. Lucy came, Marcus's calm, reassuring voice. I was wondering if I'd hear from you. She swallowed her pride. Marcus, about that loan you mentioned, can we talk more about it? 3 days later, they sat together again in Patty's place, a folder of hospital estimates and Lucy's meager finances spread out on the table between them. Lucy felt awkward, revealing so much of her personal struggles. But Marcus listened patiently, occasionally jotting down notes. Finally, he said, I can loan you the money for the procedure and follow-up care. You pay me back monthly at a rate you can manage. No interest, no hidden terms. She gazed at him, suspicion mingling with relief. You don't want me to sign anything official. Of course we should formalize it so there's no confusion, he said, handing over a simple contract he'd drawn up. It basically states the principal amount you're borrowing, the monthly payment schedule. And that I won't charge interest. Lucy scanned the document, her heart thudding. The sum $20,000 would cover the surgical procedure, plus some follow-up care and medication. It was a lifeline she never expected. Hands shaking, she signed. Marcus countersigned with an elegant flourish. Thank you, Lucy, whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. You have no idea how much this means. Marcus clasped her hand gently. I'm just glad I can help. The transformation was immediate. Lucy scheduled her father's procedure, feeling a heavy weight lift from her soul. Though the road ahead was still fraught with challenges, she had a viable plan to manage it. The stent procedure was scheduled for the following week. Lucy arranged to take time off from the diner, explaining the circumstances to Mr. Mayberry, who was surprisingly supportive. Meanwhile, Lucy's father was adamant about wanting to meet the guardian angel who funded his surgery. Lucy arranged a small dinner at their apartment. Marcus arrived with a bouquet of flowers and a gentle smile, wearing a casual sweater instead of his usual business suit. Theodore Jenkins greeted him warmly, though Lucy could see the hint of embarrassment in her father's eyes. Proud men never like to accept charity. "Thank you," Theodore said, voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to repay such kindness." Marcus patted the older man's shoulder. "Jenkins, your health is all the thanks I need." Dinner was a modest affair: roast chicken, vegetables, and a homemade apple crumble. Between bites, Marcus shared snippets of his background. He had grown up in a working-class family, faced hardships, and eventually found success through shrewd investments and a few lucky breaks. The humility in his story resonated with Lucy, reminding her that even the wealthy carry scars from their past. As the evening drew to a close, Lucy walked Marcus to the door. "Thank you again," she murmured, hugging her arms around herself. "I don't know where we'd be without you." He reached out as if to brush a lock of hair from her face, then seemed to think better of it, and dropped his hand. "I'm just happy to help. Take care. Lucy, call me if you need anything else." The day of Theodore's surgery arrived. Lucy paced the hospital waiting room, heart pounding as doctors whisked him away to the operating room. Clarissa Manny and even Mr. Mayberry showed up at different times to offer support. Lucy felt grateful, overwhelmed by the outpouring of care from people in her community. A few hours later, the surgeon emerged with a reassuring smile. The procedure went well, and Theodore was resting comfortably. Lucy let out a choked sob of relief, tears streaming down her face. She was allowed to see her father an hour later. His face was pale but peaceful. He squeezed her hand weakly, and Lucy felt the warmth of hope flood through her. Maybe life was turning around after all. In the midst of her relief, Lucy's phone buzzed. She stepped into the hallway to answer it. "Hello, Lucy. It's Marcus. I just wanted to check on you and your father. How did it go?" She smiled, pressing a hand against the cool tile wall. "He's fine. The surgery was successful. Thank you. We owe you everything." Marcus chuckled softly on the other end. "Just take care of him. That's what's important." A week passed in relative calm. Theodore came home from the hospital, slowly recovering under Lucy's attentive care. She balanced her shifts at the diner with her father's needs, often wearing herself thin, but fueled by the gratitude of having him alive and mending. Every so often, she texted Marcus with updates on her father's progress, and he always responded with genuine interest and concern. Then, one unassuming Wednesday afternoon, a massive twist shattered Lucy's newfound stability. Mayberry's diner was packed for a lunchtime rush. Lucy bustled from table to table, carrying trays loaded with orders. She didn't notice the hush that fell over the crowd until she glanced around and saw that everyone was staring at the entrance. Two men in black suits stepped inside, scanning the diner as though looking for someone. Lucy's heart lurched when one of them locked eyes with her and approached Lucy Jenkins. The man asked in a low voice. She placed her tray down, hands trembling. "Yes." The man held out a badge. Detective Roger Mitchell, State Police. "We need to ask you a few questions regarding some alleged financial fraud." Lucy felt ice crawl up her spine. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Mayberry hurried over perplexed officers. "What's the meaning of this?" Detective Mitchell eyed him cautiously. "We're conducting an investigation into a larger embezzlement ring. We have reason to believe Mrs. Jenkins might have inadvertently participated or been used as a conduit for stolen funds." Shock turned Lucy's face pale. "That's impossible. I had nothing to do with that. Gerald was the one stealing from the diner. He's already been arrested. The detective nodded. Yes, Gerald Thompson is in custody, but the funds he embezzled appear connected to a bigger network of fraudulent activity. We need to understand the flow of money that recently went into your father's surgery. Lucy froze, blood roaring in her ears. The loan from Marcus. Could it be that his money was somehow tied to illegal activity? Her mind spun with confusion and dread. I borrowed that money from a friend, Lucy stammered. Legally. The detective regarded her with a grim stare. We'll need the details, Miss Jenkins. We have reason to believe that some of the funds used in your father's medical bills match serial numbers tied to a broader fraud case. Utterly bewildered and petrified, Lucy could barely find her voice. Mr. Mayberry put a protective arm around her. Officers, Lucy is a good person. She'd never willingly participate in anything illegal. We're not making accusations yet. We're asking for cooperation. Detective Mitchell said, Ms. Jenkins, please come down to the station to give a statement. Lucy spent the next several hours in a sterile interrogation room at the police station, answering a barrage of questions about the money for her father's surgery. She provided Marcus's name, phone number, and the contract they had both signed. Detective Mitchell and his colleague took notes occasionally, exchanging pointed glances. Tell us more about Marcus Williams, said Mitchell, tapping a pen on the table. How did you meet him? Lucy explained the chance encounters at Patty's place, how he offered assistance, and how she had no reason to suspect him of wrongdoing. He said he was an investor, a philanthropist. Mitchell sighed. Well, we'll need to verify the source of those funds. But I don't understand. Lucy whimpered, tears edging her eyes. He's never done anything suspicious around me. The detective rubbed his temples, looking sympathetic but firm. Sometimes criminals pose as good Samaritans. We've got reason to believe that Marcus Williams, if that's even his real name, may be connected to a network that launders money through charitable donations and personal loans. Ms. Jenkins, you could be an unwitting accomplice. The weight of betrayal and fear settled like a rock in Lucy's stomach. She thought back to every conversation with Marcus, every gentle gesture. She had never sensed an ounce of deceit, but now she doubted her own instincts. Finally, after hours of questioning, the detectives released her warning that they might need her testimony if the investigation moved forward. She trudged home, tears blurring her vision, her mind a tornado of confusion. If Marcus Williams was a fraud, what did that mean for her father's surgery, for the loan she owed, for the future? Late that night, Lucy sat in her darkened living room, phone in hand. She had tried calling Marcus multiple times throughout the evening, but each call went straight to voicemail. She sent frantic texts, receiving no reply. Her heart hammered as she stared at the screen, waiting for any word, any explanation. 1,000 questions haunted her. Did Marcus vanish because he was guilty? Or was there a misunderstanding with the authorities? Had he left her to bear the brunt of suspicion alone? Tears stung her eyes. Her father, awakened by her muffled sobs, shuffled into the room. What happened? He asked gently. Lucy poured out the entire story, burying her face in her hands. Theodore's face went ashen. My God. Lucy. I never would have agreed to the surgery if I knew the money was stolen. She shook her head. We don't know if it was stolen yet, but the detectives suspect it. Marcus has gone silent. I don't know what to do. Dad. He sank onto the couch, clasping her hand. We'll figure it out together. Let's pray. He calls back and clarifies everything. Days passed, and each one was a nail in Lucy's coffin of anxiety. Doctors did not respond. The police continued their investigation, even visiting Lucy's apartment once more to comb through the documents. A swirl of rumors permeated the diner. Some gossip suggested Lucy was in league with Marcus, while others believed she was a victim of a con artist. Clarissa tried to comfort her during breaks. "Stay strong, Lucy. Anyone who knows you understands you'd never do something illegal." Lucy forced a half smile. "I just wish I could talk to him and get answers." Then one sunny afternoon, Lucy received a text message from Marcus's personal line. Her heart pounded as she opened it. "I'm sorry for the trouble. Please meet me at the old fountain in Riverside Park. Tomorrow at noon I'll explain everything." A swirl of hope, anger, and fear coursed through her. She showed the message to her father and Clarissa, who both urged caution. Clarissa offered to accompany her, but Lucy decided she needed to face him alone. She had to look into his eyes and determine if he was truly a thief or if the police had it wrong. The next day, Lucy stood by the old stone fountain, heart galloping in her chest. The midday sun cast ripples of light on the water's surface, and a few children chased each other nearby. Finally, Marcus appeared, wearing casual slacks and a somber expression. Lucy's breath caught in her throat. Despite her anger, she realized she still felt an emotional pull toward him. "Marcus," she said, voice shaking. "The police questioned me about money laundering. They said you might be involved. Please tell me what's going on." He stepped closer, arms at his sides, in a gesture of surrender. "Lucy, I never meant to hurt you or your father. I'm not part of a money laundering ring, I promise. The funds I gave you were mine to give." Her eyes welled with tears. "Then why did the cops say the serial numbers match stolen funds? Why did you disappear without explaining?" Marcus winced, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't disappear. I've been consulting my legal team, trying to understand how this happened. A large sum of money I invested in a venture last year might have been tied to illegitimate sources. But I had no idea. I only found out when the authorities started asking questions." Lucy shook her head, frustration boiling. "You put me in the middle of this. Without warning, I'm the one the police are questioning." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Lucy, please believe me. I'd never knowingly involve you in something illegal. When I realized there was an investigation into some of my funds, I panicked. I didn't want to drag you down with me until I had all the facts. That's why I went silent. I was working to clear my name." Her tears flowed freely now. "Then clear it. The police need proof you didn't launder money. They have me pegged as an accomplice." He nodded vehemently. "I'm meeting with them tomorrow, bringing my transaction records and everything else I can gather. I have the lawyers and accountants lined up. If everything goes smoothly, we can prove that I'm a victim of investment fraud myself. Once we do, you'll be off the hook. You won't owe me a cent of that loan if it turns out my money was tainted." Lucy's breath caught. "But that's what paid for my father's surgery." He gave a sad, apologetic smile. "I don't want you or your father living with the burden of questionable funds. If the money is proven illegal, I'll pay it back to the rightful place, and you can consider the debt forgiven." She stared at him in disbelief. "Marcus, I—" Before she could finish, Detective Mitchell and another officer stepped forward from behind a manicured hedge. Lucy's eyes widened. They had followed her. Marcus Williams. Mitchell said sternly, "You're coming with us for questioning." Marcus lifted his hands. "I'll cooperate fully. I have evidence that can clear this up." Lucy watched in a mix of dread and relief. As they escorted Marcus away, his posture straight, his eyes resolute. She only prayed that his claims were true, that he was innocent, and that the nightmare would soon be over. The next few days tested Lucy's emotional endurance more than ever before. The police confiscated her phone for a short time to review messages, adding to her sense of violation. She felt guilty each time she looked at her father. Had she inadvertently financed his surgery with illicit funds? The thought tormented her, though her father tried to reassure her that none of this was her fault. Mayberry Clarissa Manny and a few loyal regulars at the diner rallied around Lucy, giving her moral support. But she could hardly sleep, consumed by the fear of potential arrest or legal penalties. Finally, on a Friday afternoon, Lucy received a call from Detective Mitchell. She answered with a trembling hand, steeling herself for bad news. Lucy Jenkins. Mitchell's tone was unusually calm. I wanted to let you know we've concluded the investigation regarding your involvement. You're cleared of wrongdoing. Lucy sagged in relief, almost dropping the phone. Thank God. What about Marcus? There was a slight pause. He provided documentation showing that he was an unknowing investor in a shell company engaged in fraud. The case is more complicated for him, but we have no evidence that he acted with criminal intent. At this point, we're treating him as a witness, not a suspect. Tears of relief coursed down Lucy's cheeks. So, it's over for you, yes? Mitchell confirmed. I'm sorry for the stress this caused you. Lucy muttered a shaky thanks and ended the call. She fell onto the couch, clutching a cushion, tears flowing with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. Days later, Lucy was back at Mayberry's diner, resuming her regular shifts and trying to put the ordeal behind her. Whispers followed her, but the community mostly supported her, grateful she had been exonerated. Mr. Mayberry commended her bravery in handling the situation. Her father's health was improving steadily, thanks to the surgery. Life was edging toward normalcy, though Lucy carried new emotional scars. She had not heard from Marcus since the police cleared her. Then one late afternoon, as the diner began winding down, the bell above the door jingled. Lucy looked up from wiping a table and saw Marcus standing in the entrance, wearing a casual blazer, an uncertain expression on his face. Despite everything, Lucy's heart fluttered. He walked over, clearing his throat. May I sit? She nodded, gesturing to the booth. After a moment, she slipped into the seat across from him. How did things go? She asked quietly. He exhaled, placing his hands on the table. I'm in the clear, legally but financially. I took a big hit. The authorities seized some of my accounts to verify they weren't tied to anything illegal. A portion of my investment is gone forever. But it's over. Lucy studied his tired features. I'm sorry. He shook his head. I'm the one who's sorry. I put you and your father through hell. Even if unintentionally. She folded her arms as if to protect herself. What happens now? Marcus fixed his gaze on her, a tentative warmth in his eyes. I'll repay whatever portion of the surgery might be considered stolen once my accounts are fully released. But you're not responsible for that debt. You don't owe me anything, Lucy. Her lips parted in astonishment. You helped save my father's life. I can't just walk away from that. A small smile curved his lips. You have no idea how much you've helped me too. You reminded me that not everyone in this world is out to take advantage. You trusted me enough to let me in, even after everything. Lucy felt tears threaten to fall. So what will you do now with your business? I'll rebuild, he said, with quiet determination. I've lost plenty of money, but not everything. I might focus on philanthropic work more carefully, vet the sources. Maybe even open a foundation of my own, ensuring total transparency. Her heart softened. I'd like to help. I mean, if there's anything I can do. He reached across the table, resting his hand over hers gently. "Thank you. I'd like that." In the weeks that followed, Lucy and Marcus found themselves forging an unlikely bond. He visited the diner more frequently, not as a savior, but as a friend. He accompanied Lucy and her father to medical appointments, ensuring Theodore had everything he needed. Gradually, the suspicion and fear that had once defined their interactions gave way to trust and a quiet, growing affection. One late evening, Lucy and Marcus took a stroll around the block near her apartment. The streetlights cast a warm glow on the pavement as leaves rustled in a gentle autumn breeze. He paused under a lamppost, turning to face her. "Lucy, do you ever think about fate? How random encounters can alter our lives drastically?" She smiled softly, recalling her heartbreak after being fired, how that twist of injustice led her to cross paths with Marcus, and how everything, both beautiful and terrifying, unfolded from there. "I think about it all the time," she whispered. "I never thought getting fired would lead me to someone like you." He brushed a thumb across her cheek. "I know I come with complicated baggage, but if you'll have me, I'd like to continue being part of your life. No strings attached." Lucy's heart throbbed. She remembered the million tears shed, the humiliations endured, the illusions shattered, and the ultimate gift of her father's life. Now here stood this man, who had inadvertently caused turmoil, yet also brought hope. She made her choice, then and there. "I'd like that too," she whispered, and in the hush of the evening air, they embraced, each holding tight to the promise of new beginnings. Over the next several months, Lucy discovered that healing from trauma, financial, emotional, and psychological, was a slow process. Her father's health continued to stabilize, and he found renewed vigor, taking short walks in the park and occasionally dropping by the diner to chat with her regulars. Marcus began collaborating with local charities, using his remaining resources and newfound caution to create genuine positive change. He even met with a famous philanthropist, Marcus Lemonis, at a business summit in Chicago to discuss best practices for transparent giving, a moment that inspired him greatly. Mayberry's diner thrived under Mr. Mayberry's leadership. Free from Gerald's deceit, Lucy became a sort of local hero, the small-town waitress who overcame massive adversity. Although she disliked the spotlight, she understood how her story gave people hope. But the best twist came the day Lucy received an official letter from the police department. They had completed the financial audit related to Marcus's funds, and while a fraction did come from a fraudulent investment, the majority was legitimately. His A portion had to be returned to the defrauded investors, but the rest was cleared. Lucy felt an immense burden lift from her shoulders. Her father's life wasn't saved by stolen money after all. Marcus insisted on covering the portion that needed to be returned, refusing to let Lucy suffer any debt. True to his word, he asked for nothing in return. In the end, Lucy realized that sometimes the greatest gifts and the hardest lessons come hand in hand. She had lost her job only to get it back, discovered the worst about people like Gerald, and the best in the most unexpected places like Marcus. She learned that even in the darkest corners of life, where betrayal and heartbreak dwell, a beacon of genuine kindness can emerge, turning sorrow into hope, loneliness into connection, and desperation into a fresh start. The story of Lucy Jenkins, a devoted waitress cast aside without warning, then thrust into a whirlwind of accusations, heartbreak, and new beginnings, reminds us that hope can surface from the bleakest moments. When she was fired for no reason, desperation threatened to consume her, yet a chance encounter with a mysterious millionaire changed everything in ways she could never have imagined. Through misunderstandings, legal battles, and fragile trust, Lucy discovered that true character shines brightest under the harshest tests. Her father's life was saved, her dignity restored, and a new promising chapter began. Thank you for watching and listening to Lucy's remarkable journey. If this story moved you, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to our channel. Together, we can celebrate inspiring tales that remind us of the resilience of the human spirit. Don't miss our next real-life drama. Fiction, stay tuned.